Come and join me. Okie doke.
All right. In the great tradition of better late than never, here we are. Good evening. I'm Reverend William. I'll be your chairperson for this evening's service. Thanks everyone for taking part in the quiet energy work portion of our service. Quiet energy work happens every Sunday prior to service. Your cooperation in building and maintaining the sacred space is greatly appreciated. Let's start with 3 ohms.
Excellent.
Opening prayer. Divine oneness of being that man calls God, ascended masters and teachers, our own personal guides who overlight, circle light in our respective individual paths. Thank you for coming close at this time. Thank you for working with us and through us as we gather here today to raise our vibration in harmony with yours. So mote it be.
So might it be.
Please open to the first page of your book. We will say together the universal greeting. If this is new to you, please watch the service workers to follow along with the interactive hand movements.
I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you love. I hear your needs. I see your beauty. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from a higher source. I salute that source in you. Let us work together.
Please turn to the next page in your book, and we will say together the 9 principles of spiritualism.
We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the Golden Rule. Whatsoever ye would that others should do unto you, do ye also unto them. We affirm the moral responsibility of the individual, and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul, here or hereafter. We affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing contained in all sacred texts are divine attributes proven through mediumship.
Do you want to talk about what we're doing today or anything?
If you want, you can.
We welcome your donations to help us maintain our presence in the community. You may donate via our website, circleoflightstl.org, or through our Facebook page. For those who use Amazon, please consider using smile.amazon.com and choose Circle of Light Independent Spiritualist Church in St. Louis as your nonprofit. Amazon will give us a small donation at no cost to you. We also collected donations for the Southwest Indian Foundation, which provides stoves and food baskets to Native Americans during the holiday season. Each year we allocate funds to help them. And if you want to make a donation specifically for SWIFT, just tell us when you donate. Thank you for your donations. All funds received help us in our mission to seek, develop, and teach the knowledge of the relationship between humanity and spirit. The crystal globe displayed here is filled with prayer and energy for healing Mother Earth and all her children. Everyone is welcome to contribute prayers for world peace and world healing. We invite you to add your energy to this sacred sharing. We keep a wooden prayer request box in the foyer. You're welcome to send us requests for healing. Throughout the week, light workers focus their energies on the prayers to add to this sacred act. We will now say the prayer for spiritual healing found on the next page, after which there will be a short silence for you to softly say the names of anyone that you would like to receive extra healing this week.
I ask the great unseen healing force to remove all obstructions from my mind and body and to restore me to perfect health. I ask this in all sincerity and honesty, and I will do my part. I ask the great unseen healing force to help both present and absent ones who are in need of help and to restore them to perfect health. I put my trust in the love and power of God.
Any current announcements?
Well, for those of you who have been concerned about the other Karen, she is now home from the hospital. Unfortunately, she was not able to hold on to the finger that was giving her trouble, so that had to be removed. She's probably a little peeved that I'm telling you all that, but because she was trying to keep that, she didn't want people to get real upset about everything. But she is undergoing therapy now, and so we're hoping that she has a quick recovery from that, and that she will be back here soon, and that she will be able to return to her work soon.
There's 5 Sundays in July, and so we're having our fireside chat tonight. Next week will be Melina's meditation. Then there'll be the first Sunday in August. We'll have a business meeting. We don't have any events coming up until September, I think.
That's correct. We don't have any events until September.
So be it. Thank you again for your donations. We will now have a prayer over the offering. Divine oneness of being in all of your forms, thank you for working with us and working through us and filling these donations with your divine light and wisdom, that they may go to the highest good for the most concerned. So mote it be.
So mote it be.
That brings us to the message portion of the service. The message workers that stand before you this evening actively develop their gifts so that they may be clear channels for this work. Please actively listen to each message. As these come from universal source via our guides, they may be tailored for the individual, but they deliver wisdom to the whole. Please address questions about messages to the message bearer after the service. To welcome each of our spirit workers, we sing together to raise the vibrations in our circle. We view the word God as a universal term for deity, rather than signifying any one particular path. Our message bearer tonight will be Reverend Karen. Let's welcome her with the song, Revive Us Again. First 2 verses.
We praise thee, O God, for the song of thy love, for Jesus who died and is now gone above. Hallelujah, I'm a spiritualist, hallelujah, amen. Hallelujah, I'm a spiritualist, revive us again. We praise thee, O God, for thy spirit of light, who has shown us our Savior and scattered our night. Hallelujah, I'm a spiritualist, hallelujah, amen. Hallelujah, I'm a spiritualist, revive us again. As William said, I'm Reverend Karen, and I'm here tonight with Dr. Pasteur, running Buffalo, White Mountain, Moonchild, and Stargazer. Joyce, we as a society are at the point where most of us have lost touch with the processes that are involved in making the things that we take for granted. And spirit is, in this case, pointing specifically towards the art of spinning. And you are being shown doing hand spinning, carefully drawing that carded fiber out and spinning it into a thread that you will later weave into the fabric to make the garment from. The spirit says that sometimes when you are looking at something and saying, why is there such a cost in whatever form that means to you? You are asked to work backwards to where you see all the bits that go into that and your place in that process. That even though you're shown spinning, there are steps that happen before you. So you're sort of in the middle. So if you're wondering why a procedure somewhere is being so difficult, look to your position within that procedure. How is it being affected by the other people around you? What steps might be taken to streamline that process so that it is less labor intensive for you, either in a physical or an emotional or a mental way, to do what you need to do in order to get to the finished product that everybody will be happy with. Lois. Lois, there is a story that's called The Giving Tree. And everybody points to that book as a representation of the true meaning of giving and of selflessness. Spirit has a different interpretation of this. They see this as the ultimate representation of man's selfishness, that all man does to the tree is take, 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 and offers nothing in return. That you have a heart that is open to giving, but they ask you to remember that you are entitled to be given to in return. Even though we have an endless source of love and energy available to us, that does not make it okay for people to use you as a source of energy rather than doing their own work. Allison. Allison, there used to be a thing back when I was young called the President's Certificate of Fitness. And it was this whole series of exercises that if you could do certain amounts, you were considered to be an overall in shape, the next generation of fine children that we were raising here in this country, which is great unless you're one of those children who can't do the exercises. And then there's a certain level of shaming and ridicule that comes because you can't succeed in that way. And Spirit wants everyone to remember that that's because for you, that is not your strength. There shouldn't be any shame in that, only a recognition that there are things in which you are strong and that you should be appreciated for, and that you should not be shamed for those things that you are not strong in. People are different. Everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. Admitting that is not a condemnation of you as a lesser person. It just means that's just not your thing. That's perfectly okay. I never understood why that would be so important to so many people. But any kind of shame that you have about something that you are not the best at, let that go. That's not doing you any favors. And, you're responsible to yourself and to the deity. And everybody else's thoughts about what you should or shouldn't be able to do is irrelevant. And they can pound sand. Michael. Michael, you know that there are those people out there who like to stir stuff up, and they make the surprised Pikachu face when it all blows up on them. And, you can't get engaged with people like that. They are, they want to cause drama, and they're shocked suddenly that when drama occurs. Well, that's an easy fix. You just go, you're out. I don't need that drama in my life. And, they can make the surprise Pikachu face all darn day because it's no longer your concern. Lois, you came in late. Go back and listen to earlier in the service, and we got your message taken care of. Okay. Lucy? All right.
No, Susan. Don't worry, you get her daughter.
Okay. Susan. Susan, there's a story where a woman would look out and say, boy, I wish the neighbors would repaint their house because it just looks so darn dingy, and she would say this day after day. And one day she looked out and says, oh, look, they took care of it. Isn't that great? And her husband says, no, I went outside and cleaned the windows. So the problem was not that there was anything that the neighbors needed to do. It was something that was wrong with the person's perception. They were not seeing things clearly. And rather than recognizing that the problem may be at their end, their immediate response was that there had to be some problem at the other person's end. So you're asked to consider if there's a situation where somebody is trying to say that you need to do something, where the response is, perhaps you're not seeing the situation clearly because there's nothing that I need to do on my end. That's on you. A lot of these messages is like, mind your own darn business. Emily. Emily, Spirit says that you have the tools and the skills to present the information that you want to present. It's more a case of kind of going about it the hard way. Like I'm being shown an image of you chopping things, but you're making a whole presentation out of it. Well, I have it set up here and I have the board vertically and I'm chopping everything here and all the bits are falling into this bowl that I have underneath. Set the cutting board flat. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple and you can still get that information across because, anything that has to do with food has to do with, providing information to be consumed. So, you've got all the stuff you need. It doesn't have to be anything showy. Just put it right out there. That it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's simple. Nick? Nick, sometimes we go around thinking we hold all the cards. You think this is a fresh new deck. I'm opening it up. I've got everything in here. When you open a brand new deck, there are 2 jokers in there. So if you forget they're running around in there and you deal the cards out thinking you got everything in control and one of those jokers pops up, surprise, surprise, things are going to go in a direction you were not prepared for. So please be aware of that when you're going in with a set of confidence, which, although, not always a bad thing, just have that little humility on the side just in case. Next.
Brittany.
Brittany. Brittany, you're being shown trying to drum and you're trying to get the rhythm right, but you seem to be having some difficulty, and Spirit says, well, there's nothing inherently wrong with the rhythm that you're trying to get. Perhaps the drum you're using is not the drum you're really looking for. Some people are comfortable with a little snare. Some people need the big koto to give them the rhythm that they're actually looking for. So think about what would most represent the rhythm that you feel most integrated with, the one that allows you to move into a meditative trance in a way that resonates more clearly with you. Okay. Sometimes when we've got clouds up in the sky, you're like, you know, it would be so much easier if I could just grab the cloud and squeeze it and get the water out of it and be done. Just let me go out there. There, we're good. But you know, if you get all that rain all at once, you get flash floods. Because all that emotional stuff is too much to take in all at once. That's why rain comes at a certain pace so that it can be integrated into the physical. It's when rain comes, that emotion stuff comes down too hard and too fast that the physical doesn't have an opportunity to integrate that. That's when we start to have problems. So much as it might seem like the easiest thing to do to get through an emotional storm is to try to you know, just bang right into it and go right into the heart of the storm and try to get it all out of the way as fast as possible. Really, the safer thing to do is take it at the pace that it wants to go. You may be in it for longer, but it's a lot less damaging when you get to the end of it. William. William, Spirit is showing me a small letter I, and it's showing it to me as though it were a bottle of champagne, and the dot on the top of the eye pops off, and all the champagne spurts out, and then what's left is just flat. You know, when you're concentrated on the eye, there's a lot of sound and a lot of, you know, fizz, and then there's so, you know, for brief moments to have those celebrations and the ego is involved, that's fine. But getting too attached to that is not going to be satisfying in the long run, because, you know, you know as well as I do that the ego is the small player. Okay, anybody else? Oh, I think that's it. Thank you for allowing me to stand between the worlds.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the activity tonight of the fireside chat. Anybody post any questions?
Not that I saw.
Okay. I have something to open with.
Go right ahead.
A friend asked me, to make a long story short. Well, I heard that if you meditate, you open yourself up to being possessed. I'm greatly reducing that down. Okay. So, my answer was, well, let me think about that for a moment. I suppose if you're sitting there, you know, you're sitting down to meditate and you're going, I don't want to get possessed. I don't want to get possessed. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. Then it's more likely you're going to get something coming into your space you don't want. Whereas if you sit down with the intention of, I'm connecting with my higher self, God, angels, spirit guides, you have some kind of intention, that is what you will bring into your space. And I would further say that if you are meditating or connecting with spirit in some kind of way, and you do get something alarming or doesn't seem right, not familiar, the way I see it, you have a choice. You could say, who are you? What do you want? Or you could say, get out of here. What do you think about that?
Well, and even if you're not somebody who is familiar with your guides, Please understand that even if you haven't made full contact with them, they're still there. They're still out there, and they will still work on your behalf. If before you sit to meditate, you say, guides and teachers, I ask for your protection while I do this meditation. That's all you have to say. They'll be there for you. And if some negative entity wants to come into your space, those guides, even if you're not familiar with them, are perfectly happy to work as the guy, with the bouncer at the bar saying, you're not coming in. You're not on the list. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So once again, it's a matter of being confident that you are loved and protected at all times, and that your guides will always work on your behalf, but they need your permission to do that. So, just let them know, hey, I'm going to do this. If anything weird starts happening, send in the Marines.
Okay, I'm gonna tell a Deborah story.
Oh boy.
Well, it's a short one. It's a story she told many times. She used to live not that far from here in South St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And you know how there's a stop sign, stop sign, stop sign, stop sign. What do people in St. Louis do? Roll right through them. Betcha. So she's heading home one day, and she's rolling through a stop sign, and this voice, remember it now? There's a voice, one of her guys goes, stop. She's like, whatever, I'm in a hurry. She rolls through the stop sign, woo, gets a ticket. Sometime later, I don't know if it was weeks, months, how long it was after that, she's driving home, and that voice says, stop. She slammed on the brakes, and a truck didn't even slow down, zipped right through that stop sign the other way, and she said, if I wouldn't have stopped, I would have been T-boned. I would have been smashed. Mm-hmm. So the point I'm making, following off what Karen said, is that you cultivate a relationship, they're looking out for you, even if you're not meditating or consciously communicating with them.
You bet.
You betcha.
You betcha, pal. Yeah, that seems to be the biggest thing that people are worried about is, oh my God, something terrible will happen to me. Well, if that's the mindset that you want to go in with, that's a law of attraction thing. If you're saying they don't hear the negative part, they say, I don't want to be possessed. All they hear is be possessed, be possessed.
Right. Same is true with the way your brain works. Your brain doesn't accept a negative statement. Your brain believes the picture in your head. So if you say, I don't want to get in a wreck, I don't want to get in a wreck, I don't want to get in a wreck, you're picturing a wreck, you're attracting that situation to yourself. If you say, I'm a safe driver, mm-hmm. I arrive alive and on time, or whatever, if you have some positive statement, that changes the picture in your head, changes the outcome.
Yep. But I think that's the biggest worry that any newbie has about doing this work.
It is. It's one of
those. Yep. They're scared that something terrible is going to happen to them. It's like, well, if you draw it to you, yeah. Well, but if you're going into it with that knowledge that you are loved and protected.
A lot of the calls I get are from inexperienced people. And one of the funny and not funny stories was, I remember this guy, I was waiting in line for an oil change. I had a lot of time to talk on the phone. This woman called me and said, I haven't slept in X number of weeks. I was like, that's hard to believe. How you go that long without sleeping? Well, she had hardly any sleep in a matter of weeks or months. A long time. And she's just absolutely miserable, going on, blah, 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 because there's a Civil War soldier keeping me up all night, marching across. I can hear his his like boots on the wooden floor. She described the sound, what he looked like. She had a pretty good description. And she wasn't like into this stuff per se. She just had this experience. I said, well, did you tell him to leave? No. That's where I would start. Tell him to leave.
That's right. Get bent.
And again, I see it as a choice. Like you could say, hey, who are you? Is there something I can do for you? Because I'm like, of the 8 billion people in the world, why are you in my bedroom? Why here now? Maybe he died on this property, or maybe,
Sure.
There could be some kind of connection to the place or to the person. Maybe it's one of your ancestors. Or maybe you don't care. Maybe you just want to sleep and you tell them, get out. But I see it as a choice.
Well, I mean, when you're confronted with a situation like that, why is your first response to just say, oh, let me give you all my power? Please take all my power.
Well, they're scared.
Never give up your power. That is, if there's one thing we can tell people, never give up your power. Because there are any number of people who will gladly take it from you if you
Sure.
put it out on a plate for them to take it. But you know what? It's not theirs. They're not entitled to it. It's yours.
That's so the example of the entity in your space is one example. What's another example you might give of how you keep your power and not give it away?
Well, I mean, everybody's got that coworker who's a little bit too familiar.
Mm.
And that can come in a variety of different forms. That can be one where they want to be
All up in your space all the time.
well, if they want to be friendly, they want to be too involved in your life in a non-creepy way, or they want to be too involved in your life in a creepy way, or they want to be involved in your life in an aggressive way. There are lots of those people out there, and there are people who have their failings, their jealousies, their stuff. But just because they have that doesn't mean you have to take that on. That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem, That's all about boundaries. It's all about boundaries. It's one thing to say, hey, could I get some help doing such and such? It's another thing to say, hey, do my stuff for me. No, it's not my job. That's your job.
This is my dance space. This is your dance space.
Correct. No touchy. No touchy. We're imperfect people here, and there's a lot of boundary stomping that people do for a variety of reasons. And just like the negative entities that are not in form, all they're doing is a different type of boundary stomping. And just because their boundaries are porous doesn't mean yours are. Once again, the line to kiss my ass forms to the right. Okay, be there.
Well, you make it, tongue in cheek funny, but you make a good point of say what you mean and mean what you say. Another Deborah quote is give no option when no option's intended.
Correct.
I mean,
yeah. Don't ask questions for which no answer is really requested.
Right, right.
You know, if you leave yourself open to boundary stoppers, then that's what they're going to do, because that's who they are.
Another story's been told over and over and over and over. Sometimes it's a scorpion, sometimes it's a snake, but like there's a turtle going to cross
Yes.
a river.
Mhm.
And the snake says, "Hey, can I get a ride across the river?" Turtle's like, "No, you're a snake. You're going to bite me." Snake's like, "I'm not going to bite you. I just need to ride across the river. I can't swim." Long story short, turtle takes the snake across the river. Snake bites him. Turtle's dying, saying, "What'd you bite me for?" He goes, "I'm a snake."
You knew that when you took me. Yeah.
And to me, that is just acceptance of reality. I mean, there are times when people are deceived. You know, I mean, you can't know everything about everybody all the time,
True.
but you can use your common sense. And, you know, you don't owe that snake a ride.
No.
That's another part of it too. Like, you know, if you want to get across that, Brad, build a bridge. I don't want to tell you, but I'm not your ride.
Like I was saying, I noticed that
Yeah.
that a number of the messages I was giving tonight had to do with, you know, people minding their own darn business. Society as a whole would run a lot smoother if everybody could just show some basic decency towards one another and mind their own business. That's just common courtesy. It doesn't mean being cold or nasty or anything like that. It's just a matter of, and you have to understand that, once again, you have to understand that the people you're dealing with. There are societal mores that come into play. You know, if you're dealing with people from Arab cultures, their sense of personal space is a lot smaller than our sense of personal space is. On the other hand, you know, there are some societies where there's a much larger idea of what personal space is, you know, or what they tell other people who are more private about their lives, where you may find out that they do this thing, you know, you may have known them for years, but you didn't know they did this thing because there was no situation that came up where they felt like they needed to speak to you about it. You know, it's not that they were being unfriendly, it's just it wasn't relevant to their interactions with you. That's fair.
I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah.
Stuff like that's going to happen.
But if everybody can just be, you know, conscious that people are like that, you know, there are some people who like to overshare their lives. And, you know, those people, you have to find the polite way to disengage, or the impolite way to disengage, if that's the only way you can figure out to disengage, because some of them are like an octopus.
Yeah, and in my experience, and I think anyone who's been alive for more than a couple of years, there are people who don't respect boundaries, and sometimes you have to be clear and adamant, to put it nicely.
You have to be more forceful than you would normally prefer to be. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, but on the other hand, there are people, and I think I can say this fairly, a lot of us who are attracted to things like Circle of Light run with people who are sensitive. So, yeah, sometimes you'll have the people who don't respect boundaries because they're just spiky or whatever.
Too much.
But also you have people who you have to be so gentle with because they take everything personally. They're highly sensitive. Empath. And I mean, I think I have a pretty good understanding of compassion and respect and things like that. But at some point, you have to let people own their own reactions. You can't. Do you want to take on the responsibility of everybody's reaction? Do you well, I'll just speak first person. I don't. I am not taking on the responsibility of everybody else's reaction to me. I learn, I listen, I observe, I am pretty good at discerning different people's personalities and things. And like Karen, this Karen right here, she likes it from the hip, short and sweet, right? Doesn't like to mince words. Just like get to the point, please and thank you. Other people are not that way. You have to they have what I call a long on ramp. You have to really take a long time to merge because they're not up to speed. But at some point, and I think it changes depending on the situation, you got to just get there.
Well, I mean, the most difficult thing is those people who want to take personally things that are not personal.
Fourth agreement. It's not personal.
And then they're just looking for reasons to be offended. And I don't know what there is to be done about that. If you're that sensitive, I recommend therapy.
Well, I was actually going to therapy. This is probably about 10 years ago. And I was describing the situation in my life. And the therapist said, well, I had a very serious confrontation with someone, okay, to make a long story short. And the therapist said, well, what if it's not about you? What if that person is just an angry person looking for something to be angry about? When somebody tells you the right thing at the right time, that was a huge light bulb moment. Huge. Well, I'm like, oh, hit the proverbial nail on the head. So that relieved me of taking on the responsibility of his reaction.
Because remember, you can't fix other people.
Right. And
you can only work on yourself.
Yep.
Don't take anybody else's karma. You have enough of your own.
Huh.
You're good. You're good. You're full up. Full up. Couldn't eat another bite.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't give you an excuse to be a jerk either.
No.
You can still be compassionate, understanding.
No. We know any number of people who we look at and go, you signed up for way too much this lifetime, didn't you?
Well,
that was a brave choice you made. That was a brave choice. We commend you on that, but you're not going to get through all that.
It is your karma.
Yeah. Yeah, we know you decided you were going to try to kill off a whole bunch of karma. Good luck with that.
I'm not sure how long we've been doing this. But that brings up what is karma. Karma is not punishment or reward. A lot of people have this idea that karma is like heaven and hell. I do good things happen to me. I do bad things happen to me. And I think that's a really serious misconception of karma. Karma is the law of cause and effect. It is not the law of punishment or reward.
No, the idea is trying to find balance.
And I would say, if there is this universal law of cause and effect, why does it exist? So I can learn. So karma will bring to your attention what you're here to learn. Usually in a very immediate way.
And you may decide you don't want to learn that lesson this time. That's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to. You got plenty of lifetimes to learn that lesson.
It's
The universe will
that's
bring it
right.
back to you. Don't worry.
What they
The
call
universe
that?
will never forget the lessons you need to learn. You know what? And they will hit you. They will hit you with an increasingly larger hammer until you do learn the lesson.
It's, what they call it in school, like you do the class at your own pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like life is learning at your own pace.
Mm-hmm. There's a former sportscaster who I don't know whether he ever understood it, but I could see some of the incidents he had in his life that the universe was hitting him with an increasingly larger hammer to try to get him to understand a particular lesson. You know, as a person who's looking at it from the outside, I could see where this was building. And I think at a certain point, he finally went and got therapy. So perhaps he finally did learn that lesson, but it's, don't worry. The lesson will come back around until you learn it. If you decide I'm not up to that one right now, okay. Plenty of lessons to be learned. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Closing prayer.
Okay.
Divine oneness of being that man calls God, ascended masters and teachers, overlighting angels, our own guides in spirit, thank you once again for coming in closely, working with us and through us. And thank you for overlighting our individual collective path as we move forth from here. So mote it be.
So mote it be.
Thank you all for being in our circle of light. Please stand with us in unity as we sing together. Let there be peace on earth. Yep.
Oh, that's a lot easier than it used to be.
Oh, good.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin